All right, so we're going to look at the makeup testing information that is in the Spring 2022 Administration Manual for State and District Testing. And this is going to be for both standard time and accommodations. All right, so on page 10, under makeup testing, eligibility for makeup testing. For the ACT taken online, if you are unable to administer the test to an examinee due to absence or illness, you may reschedule that examinee to test on another day within your testing window. You may not reschedule examinees who completed testing or were dismissed for prohibited behavior. Examinees dismissed for prohibitive behavior are not permitted to test in any other test session. This includes testing via paper. Note, if you have any paper testing examinees at your school who missed their initially scheduled test date, they may be eligible to use the online window to complete makeup testing. This will allow the examinees to test sooner rather than waiting for the scheduled paper subsequent test date. If you are unsure if the examinee's accommodations can be provided in an online format, please contact ACT for assistance. All right, makeup for single day testing. Makeup for single day testing. Just a reminder, single day testing would be timing code 1, which is standard time, timing code 5, which are the breaks as needed. Remember, breaks as needed are done in a single day, and timing code 6. Remember, timing code 6 is 1 1/2 time in a single day. So those 3 timing codes are done in a single day. So again, timing code 1, which is standard time, timing code 5, breaks as needed, and timing code 6, which is 1 1/2 time. Now, just a reminder, breaks as needed cannot exceed a total of 90 minutes. All right, so let's continue with that section on makeup testing for single day testing. For single day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she, bullet number 1, was absent for or was not admitted to the test session, such as did not log in to TestNav. Bullet number 2, began testing but did not complete all tests, such as an illness. Use the table below to determine your action. If the examinee did not log in and will take a makeup session, then the test coordinator will remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. Note, when you move the student to a new test session, you will need to print a new student authorization ticket. So let's look at what this looks like in PA Next, in Pearson Access Next. So I'm going to go to testing, and I'm going to go to sessions, and it's going to list all my sessions. Now remember, the test coordinator should remove the student, but I do believe that the room supervisor has that ability as well. But for makeup testing, here's what you can do. So if a student did not log in and will take a makeup session, we need to remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. So let's go to, I want to go to this test session right here. So, and notice that the session status, and we've talked about some of this in a previous session. See, it says not prepared, in progress. This one stopped, and this says in progress. So by the time you're ready for ACT testing in March, you will understand what all of this means and how all of this came to be under the session status. But let's go to this session here. So I'm going to go ahead and check it off. And remember, we need to go to the task pane here. We're going to click on Show Students in Sessions and Control Sessions. That's where you must go. All right, once you do that, we get this information. Notice there's only one session here, and just a reminder, you have different colors here: gray, red, and light blue or teal, and that corresponds to these colors right here. So notice I have 2 students that log into TestNav and exited. That's what that means. Okay, I have 1 student that went through all 4 tests and completed the test session. So they completed all 4 tests. And then I have 1 student that did not start. So what I want to do at the end of, let's say this is a standard time, a single day test, which is what we're talking about, single day test. The student did not show up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I need to go ahead and remove the student out of that session. So to remove the student out of the session, here's what you do. You're going to click on the little checkbox next to the student's name right here. So notice there's a check now. We're going to go back to the task pane. Okay. We're then going to go to right here where it says under students, remove students from session. Before I do that, let's go ahead and make a note of the student that I'm removing. So I'm going to go ahead and write down the student code. I don't know if we can use that in here, but we do need the student's last name. So in this case, the student's last name is last AN, and then I'm just going to put the student code 577594277. So I just wrote down that information. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on Remove Students from Sessions. Okay, click on this, and then you're going to start. Go to Start. So by the time we get into a week before testing, you and your test coordinator should be able to do this very easily. So we're going to click on the student that needs to be removed. We're going to click on Task Pane right here. Click on Task Pane. Then go to and click on Remove Students from Sessions. Then we go to Start. Watch what happens when I click on Start. So when I click on Start, it's still moving. When I click on Start, all right. Now notice we get this information. So remove students from sessions. So I want to remove the one I just spoke about. And so that is going to be the one with the last 4 numerical digits being 4277. So that's this one right here. So I'm going to click on this. That's the student I want to remove, right? I'm going to click on this. And then I'm going to click on Remove. You have to do that as well. So click on that. And before I do that, notice that this one you cannot remove. Students cannot be removed from sessions with current status. So see the status is marked complete. Once a student is marked complete, or once a student is complete, you cannot remove a student from a session. You can only remove a student from a session if the student has not logged into TestNav. In this particular case that we're looking at. Okay, so if you see those 2 reddies, I can remove those 2 students from the test sessions. But for this particular test session I'm looking at, I only want to remove this student. So we're going to click on the little box next to the student's name, and then I'm going to click on Remove. Okay. All right. So it says Changes Saved. Then I'm going to go to and look. That student is no longer in this list. So then I'm going to go to Exit Task. I'm going to go to Exit Task, and I want to show you something. So notice that we're still in this session right here, this test session that I created, and that student is no longer there. Okay? All right, so the student's no longer there. Now what I want to do now is, remember, I'm going to show you what you have to then do. All right, so notice, remove the examinee from the test session, which we just did, right? And assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. So I'm going to go and I'm going to show you what you would then have to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back to testing. I'm going to go back to testing. I'm going to go to sessions. And so I'm going to put that student that we just removed into makeup number 2 right here. So I'm going to click on the little box. I am then going to go to the pane right here. And I'm going to click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. So I'm going to click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. I'm going to go to Start. Okay. I'm going to go to Start. And by the way, before I do that, you see this little makeup number 2? See where it says number of students? There's no students in there yet. See? There's 1 student in the first one, 1 student in that third session, 3, 3, and 8. But none in this one. All right, so I wanted you to be aware of that. So I'm going to, again, click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. Go to Start. Go to Start. And then we got to find that student. All right, so you can find by name or ID. So I'm going to go ahead and do that ID. And the ID was 57759, and that was it right here. Right here. See that one? Okay, so then here it is. You must click on that student right here. Right here. Click on that. And then we're going to save. So let's see what happens when I save. And so when I save, it says changes made. And then I'm going to go ahead and exit. I'm going to go ahead and exit. And I'm going to come back to sessions right here. And notice there's 1 student in that session now. So if you want to see what students in that session and make sure you did this correctly, go back to testing. I'm sorry. It's already checked off. So go back to the select panes. Show students in sessions and control sessions, and notice in that 1 makeup test right here, there's that student, okay, and that student is locked. Students is locked. When you get ready to test a student, remember you're going to have to prepare the session. All right, but that student is locked and ready. You just got to prepare the session. Okay, so that is, I'm going to move this. So that is this first part here. So student did not log in and will take a makeup session. You are then going to remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. All right, now remember, once we did that, when you're ready to test that student, you will then have to print the new student authorization ticket with a new username and password. All right, let's look at the second one now. If the examinee began but did not finish and will take a makeup test, change the test status to marked complete and provide a detailed reason. You must contact ACT to create a new test registration. All right, so remember, you must contact ACT to request a new test registration. So if a student began but did not finish and will take the makeup, so for example, the student took test number 1, got ill, went home, let's say. And so all in this, remember, this is all in single day testing. Got ill, then the student's going to retake all 4 tests on another day. But you have to mark this test status as marked complete and provide a detailed reason. So let me show you how to do that. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to Pearson Access Next. I'm going to go to testing. I'm going to show all sessions. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go back, and I think we can go back to the one we were working with earlier. I'm going to go back to this one right here, and I'm going to go to the task pane. I'm going to click on Show Students in Sessions and Control Sessions, and click on this. You must click on this for the students to show up, and the students are showing up, okay? All right, so you see those exited right here? So the student, in one instance, actually in both, I'm sorry, in one instance, this student right here was in the middle of English, and actually just went ahead and logged out of TestNav. Do not tell students to log out of TestNav for single day testing. All right, this particular student took test 1 and logged out of TestNav. All right, now the student number 2 got ill, okay, got ill, and the student needs to leave, right? So then you would tell the student to log out of TestNav. So the student gets ill and and gets ill at the end of test 1. Is not coming back for test 2. Have them log out of TestNav. Okay. All right. If the student um, let's say, all right, let's suppose during test 1, this student right here leaves to go to the restroom. Do not tell the student to log out of TestNav, because if the student logs out of TestNav, the timer stops. All right, so once a student logs out of TestNav, the timer stops. So it is very important that students understand that they should never themselves log out of TestNav. That should come by the room supervisor. The room supervisor needs to determine that. If a student is leaving to go to the restroom, do not have the student log out of TestNav. The student loses a time. The timer continues, and the room supervisor must keep track of the time lost. Okay, we're going to talk about that some more later. All right. If a student at the end of test 1 becomes ill, all right, at the end of test 1 becomes ill, then and has to leave, then go ahead and have the student log out of TestNav. Okay. All right. Now, okay, with all that being said, we're still trying to work on the second one. The examinee began but did not finish, and we'll take a makeup session. So we're going to change the test status to marked complete and provide a detailed reason. Now remember, you're going to contact ACT to request a new test registration. So let me go back and pull this over. And so here's how you're going to do this. Let's suppose we're going to have this student, which has already started the test, student number 2 right here, that has already started the test. I'm going to go ahead and have that student got sick at the end of test 1, and I'm going to go ahead and have that student do a makeup. Okay, so here's how you're going to do this. You got to make sure that this goes from exited to marked complete. You have to right here where it says marked complete. Okay, so let's go ahead and see this. And you're all going to have this situation probably. So you can click on the box right here. Click on the box. And we're going to go back to that task pane. Click on the task pane, and you see where it says marked student test complete. You're going to click on that box. Then you're going to go to start. And when you do that, here is what happens. It's still turning. All right, there we go. All right, so here's the one I need to move right here. So I'm going to click on this box right here. Oh, by the way, you got to do a reason. So I'm going to say a detailed reason. See the little asterisk right here? All right, so you're going to say student became ill during test 1, let's say. All right. Went home. Oops. Went home. Will take a makeup. Will take a makeup. Okay. So student became ill during test 1. Went home. Will take a makeup. All right. So then I'm going to click on the little box. You must click on the box next to the student's name. And now, well, before I do that, let me show you what happened. You see how this mark complete was a different blue than when I click on it, it became darker blue. So it was a lighter blue, and now it's a darker blue. So it kind of became bolded, let's say. So click on the box, becomes bolded, darker blue. Now click on mark complete. And before I do that, I want to show you. See how it says exit right here for that student? When I click on it, it now becomes, watch what happens, it now becomes marked complete. Okay? All right, so that student is now marked complete. So I'm going to go ahead and exit task, and see that student that I had checked off? It now says mark complete. All right, now let me remind you the difference between mark complete and completed. So mark complete is something that the room supervisor or test coordinator does. Completed means that the student completed all 4 tests on their own. That's what that means. All right, so students submitted test 1, submitted test 2, submitted test 3, submitted test 4. That's what that means. Mark complete is something the room supervisor did or the test coordinator did. All right, so that is how you are going to mark a student test as complete. All right, just a reminder where it says the note, examinees must take all tests in the makeup session, even if some were completed in initial session. Tests from one session cannot be combined with tests from another session. So just like paper testing from previous years, if a student took one test, got ill, and went home, then when you did the makeup, the student had to take all 4 again. Okay, so that's what that's saying. All right, so now we're going to look at makeup testing for multiple day testing. Multiple day testing. So that's the other timing codes. So for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she, bullet number 1, was absent, such as did not log in to test nav for that sitting, or bullet number 2, logged into test nav for that sitting, but did not enter the seal code to begin the test. All right, so, and then we're going to use a table to determine your action. So again, for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she was absent during that test, whatever the test may be, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 1, did not log in to test nav for that sitting. If the student logged into test nav for that sitting but did not enter the seal code to begin the test, then you can reschedule an examinee for that test. Okay, but once the student enters the seal code, you cannot retest that student on that test. All right, so once that student enters the seal code, you cannot retest the student. So for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she was absent or logged into test nav for that sitting but did not enter the seal code to begin the test. All right, let's use the table to determine your action. All right, if the examinee will take the missed test, then the test coordinator will reschedule the student to test on another day in the current online test window and resume the examinee's test in Pearson Access on the makeup test day. Second one, logged into test nav but will not take the missed test. In other words, will not finish testing. You're going to change the test status to mark complete and provide a detailed reason. So we all know how to do the second one. We all know how to Change the test status to mark complete now. And again, when you do a mark complete, you are required to provide a detailed reason. The third one, did not log into TestNav. So if the examinee did not log into TestNav and will not take the missed test, then remove the examinee's test from the test session. All right, so just a reminder, whenever, and I'm looking at, let's go back to testing sessions, and let me find one. So still turning. Let me go to, let's say, this one here. I want to see what's in this one. So I'm going to go to show students. Oops. Show students. All right, so there are no students. Oops. All right. Okay, so I have these students here. Notice two says mark complete, all the others says ready. So let me just remind you. So the third one says the examinee did not log into TestNav and will not take the missed test. So notice ready right here means that none of those examinees logged into TestNav. That's what that means. Okay, so did not log into TestNav and will not take the missed test. Then remove the examinee from the test session. So remember, before you can mark a test complete, or before you can stop a session, I should say, before you can stop a session, you must remove any student with ready. So let's say we need to remove this one. So let me just remind you how to do that. Remove a student. So let's say we're going to remove this one. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to task pane. I'm going to say remove students from session, and then start. And that was this one. Oops, I forgot which one I was going to remove. I should have kept track of it. Let's just say it was this one right here. Yeah, it was in this one here. So it was that one. So click on remove, and changes were saved. Changes were saved, and then let's go and exit test. All right. So that's how you remove a student, and we did it a while ago as well. Okay. So if an examinee will take the missed test, then reschedule the student to test another day in the current online test window and resume the examinee's test in Pearson Access Next on the makeup test day. Second one, log into TestNav but will not take the missed test. In other words, will not finish testing. Change the test status to mark complete and provide a detailed reason. If the examinee did not log into TestNav and will not take the missed test, remove the examinee's test from the test session. Note, if an examinee is absent for a group sitting, he or she can make up the test and then rejoin the group for the next sitting as long as everyone will be taking the same test at the same time. If the examinee cannot take the missed test in time to rejoin the next group sitting, you may need to reschedule all remaining tests for that examinee individually. All right, so if an examinee is absent for a group sitting, he or she can make up the missed test, and then rejoin the group for that next sitting as long as everyone will be taking the same test at the same time. If the examinee cannot take the missed test in time to rejoin the next group sitting, you may need to reschedule all remaining tests for that examinee individually. So for example, let's say it's over multiple days and you do one test in one day, one test another day, and you do the two remaining tests, which are shorter, in one day. So let's say over 3 days. If you do it consecutively, like let's say, remember this is online, so let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Remember, online testing is only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you do it consecutively like that, chances are you're going to have some students that will miss that day. You cannot put that student back in that session if they're working on different tests. So you may have to then test that student separately in comparison to the others in a different room. Okay, so every student in that room must be working the same test. All right. Okay, now. Okay, so you remember right here where it says if the student will take the missed test. Remember, this is over multiple days, right? So the student will take the missed test. So test number 1, the student took. So remember, at the end of test number 1 on multiple days, the student is going to log out of test nav. Okay, you're going to log out of test nav. Then on whenever the student comes back to take test number 2, the student is going to resume the online testing. So here's how you're going to do the resume. All right, so let me go to an example. So let's suppose I went to a test session, and you see where it says exited, marked complete, or completed. So this student, let's say, the one that says exited, let's say the student took test number 1 on one day. So at the end of the day, the student logs out of test nav. Okay? So to get ready for the next day, though, we've got to come back and resume testing for that student or those students. They're all going to say exited after that one day. So we're going to click on this student. If this is a student I need to resume, we're going to click on that student. I'm going to go to the task pane and see where it says resume student test. So I'm going to click on resume. I'm going to click on start, and that's the one I need to resume right here. And then we click resume, and now exited becomes this orange resumed. So the student is now ready to take that second test the next day. Okay, so that's how you're going to change to resumed. All right, so that's going to take care of this section of the administration manual dealing with makeup testing. If you have any questions, just make sure you ask and get as much help as you need to prepare for online testing.